Hey guys, Colt here with the September wrap up. So I realized when I sat down to make this video, I did a lot this month and I read a lot, and because of that I'm going to start breaking everything up into weekly wrap ups, so then I'm not stuck here at the end of the month completely bogged down, and I'll be able to do a lot more fun tags and things like that. So going forward, make sure you look out for that. Also, I did participate in the reading quest this month. Because I already have 3 videos dedicated to that, I'm not going to touch any of the books that I read, but I will refer you to those links in case you're interested in checking it out. The books that I have now are the books that I read independently from that. So let's start off with a summary of what I read. So this month I read 3 graphic novels, 6 research-related novels, and then 6 just for myself novels. I'm going to start off with the graphic novels. Now the first graphic novel I read was Stormfront, Volume 1, the Jim Butcher series, Dresden Files, which they are bringing back, I guess, and reformatting into a new graphic novel. I gave it 5 stars. It was excellent. It was straight on the book. They cut out all the unnecessary parts. I liked the graphics. I felt like they did really well representing the characters. I would highly recommend this if you're a Jim Butcher fan because I truly enjoyed it. The second book I read was The Wendy Project by Melissa Jane Osborne. Now this was sort of a modern day retelling of Peter Pan. I went into it basically because I'm obsessed with Peter Pan. I went into it blind. It ripped my heart out. It is definitely a trigger if you're going through loss or dealing with grief, so be forewarned there. Also, if you have depression, it could also be a trigger. I thought it was really well done. Even though it was melancholy, they did a good job of taking some of the main points of Peter Pan and twisting it to fit this modern day situation. Now, if you are looking for magic, you won't find it in this, so I will go ahead and warn you of that, because if you go in to the book expecting it, you could be disappointed. This was a 5-star read for me because it was just a different take that I had never seen before, and I actually really enjoyed it. My last graphic novel that I read was Rat Queen, Sass and Sorcery, Volume 1. I love this book. It's basically Dungeons and Dragons with only chicks. They are like a mercenary group. They all have incredibly different powers. They come from different places. They are snarky. They are crass. There is gore. So this one is definitely not for the faint of heart, but I truly enjoyed the read. And also talk about the diversity from skin tone to sexual orientation. They really covered it all. And I'm kind of looking forward to reading book 2. It was definitely a 4-star read for me. That was all the graphic novels I read this month, and so now I'm going to jump into the novels that I did read for my research. The first book I read was The Book of Blood by H.P. Newquest, and I picked it up because I do have vampires in my book. And this was all about blood, blood vessels, how it works, what particles make up blood, what blood really looks like. It was actually incredibly informative, but done in a way that you could digest it all. I really enjoyed this. It covered the history of blood, how we learned how blood worked, what it was circulates through our body. It was like a mini history lesson, and then it did touch a little bit onto lore and things like that. So it was basically more informative than it was anything else. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, I do recommend it because I definitely gave it 5 stars. The next book I read was Witches, The Mystery Library by Stuart A. Kellen. The next book I read was Witches, Mystery Library by Stuart A. Kellen. This was a 4-star. I found it to be very informative. It was basically covering this broad range of witches from ancient days until now, and it had chapters that were focused on different time frames, what they thought about witches and how they were handled. So I really did enjoy this read, and I found it to be quite helpful. The next one I read was Supernatural Places by Sarah Bartlett. And it was exactly what it sounds like. It was just a giant book full of different paranormal places and the myths and lores connected to them. If you are into that type of thing, or even looking to write a story and wanting to do something unique, this is the perfect kind of book to look for. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. The next book was Past Lives by Douglas DeLong. It was supposed to sort of cover past lives, but I found it to be very vague, not very informative or helpful at all. It was like a 2 to 3-star read for me. Maybe if I knew nothing about the concept of past lives, I would find it super helpful, but I just didn't enjoy it. The next book I read was my favorite research read of the month. It was Reading Tea Leaves by Carolyn Dow. It covered everything tea leaves from A to Z. It took you to the past, how tea leaf readings were, who used to read them and why, onto the future. She did this awesome comparison of how it used to be and the strict things they said you had to do, how it's been modernized. She gave you a lot of options. She used examples so you could see how the tea leaf reading was supposed to be. I really enjoyed it. It came in really handy, and I cannot wait to, one, use it in my book and it be accurate, and two, do it for a parlor trick, because it's just a pretty neat thing. I also find it very interesting that, like in Victorian times, it was something that a lot of people knew how to do, and it was like a parlor trick. I never would have known that. My last and final book was Love by Maggie Combs, and it was just supposed to explore the theme of love in writing and how it could be presented. I don't know, I just felt like it was written for a much younger audience. Like, it was pitched for teens, but really it was like middle grade. And I think because of that reason, it really just annoyed me. And so I ended up giving it like 2 stars. Now let's get into the reads I read for enjoyment. Finally finished Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I'm probably going to get stoned, but I just didn't enjoy it the way that I enjoyed Six of Crows. I finished and I was really irritated. I felt like the story just left off with everything up in the air. There were no conclusions. It didn't go places I thought that it should go. I'm not going to get into it too much because I'm actually going to do a discussion about it, but I was just disappointed. I felt like we got so much of one thing. It was so not even plot heavy, but just information heavy. Things that I felt like could have been used to talk more about the characters and show more of their development and growth. I just wasn't happy with it, so I just ended up giving it 3 stars. I really struggled to finish this one. And I would love to know if I am the only one on the planet who felt this way, or if you could also relate to that. I would really love you to weigh in on that. I read the And I Darken series this month because once I read And I Darken, I obviously had to pick up Now I Rise because I needed to know what happened. I was so impressed with this. She did an excellent job of blending historical concepts, how it is to be a woman in that day and age, and then she also added adolescence, growing up, the effects of growing up under Dracul. I mean, the guy wasn't the nicest guy in the world, so you can only imagine what that would do to his children. I was enraptured with it. I was totally into the characters. They made me upset. They made me proud. I wanted to strangle Radu. I understood why he was the way he was, but then he kept making the same stupid decisions over and over, and it really pissed me off. Lada, I understood her cruelty. I understood why she had to be that way when she wanted these lofty aspirations that were radical for her time. You know, women didn't rule, and that was all she wanted to do. So while I was sympathetic to her, there were times where she also made me really angry because I was completely tied up in her. I was just completely impressed by these 2 books, and I can't wait for the 3rd. I'll be doing a book discussion on both of them, so I'm really not going to go too much more into it, but these were both 5-star reads for me. I also read 13 Ways to Midnight by Rue Volley, which was amazing. If you like vampires, but maybe you think they're played out, this is the book you want to pick up because she really just takes a different spin on things, which is what I really appreciated. I mean, from the minute it opens up, you just want to know more about these characters. It's just set in such an interesting environment. You have these 2 twins whose parents are archaeologists. They traveled all over the world, and it's really shaped them as people and then made them quite awkward because they've never been to school. Situations happen, and the main character, Echo, has to go to school, and she's dealing with so much and trying to adjust, and you just really feel for her. I highly recommend this read. This was another 5-star. I had an excellent reading month. I really can't complain, and I read a lot, which is why I'm going to be moving into weeklies. Now, there was one book that ended up being a fail for me, and it was The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. Every time I tried to read this, I just couldn't get any further, and it wasn't that it was bad or that it wasn't interesting. I just think I wasn't in the right frame of mind to read it. So I may give it a try this month. I'm not promising, but I may give it a try this month. I do know that I want to try to pick it up again because so many of you out there really enjoyed this author and really enjoyed this read, but it just wasn't the book for me at this time. That was my complete list of everything that I read in September. I have a lot of things planned for October. I'm not going to do a traditional TBR because I just have too many different things going on. What I will do is talk about the different reading quests I'll be going on and updating you weekly on sort of what I have. Seeing one immediately from me, probably the same day that I post this, because I am participating in the Blockbuster book tag, which is so much fun. I love that it's based on an actual game that took place in England, and it is hosted by Elena Reads Books, who's amazing. And I am going to jump off of here and actually jump into that and let you guys know what I'm going to be reading. If you like what's going on, be sure that you like and follow me. If you have any questions or comments on anything I read, please leave them below because I love to chat. I'm going to get off of here and record all the videos now. So I will see you guys later. Bye.